How the US stole Puerto Rico is a deep and complex story that spans centuries, tracing the transformation of Puerto Rico from a Spanish colony to an unincorporated US territory. This narrative is filled with pivotal moments, involving colonialism, war, politics, economics, and the resilience of the Puerto Rican people. The story begins in the early days of European colonization. In 1493, Christopher Columbus arrived on the island during his second voyage to the Americas, claiming it for Spain. Puerto Rico was inhabited by the Taino people, who had developed a rich culture and society over centuries. Spain quickly exploited Puerto Rico's natural resources, and the native population was decimated by disease, warfare, and forced labor. Over the following centuries, Puerto Rico became a strategic outpost in the Caribbean for the Spanish Empire. By the late 1800s, however, the Spanish Empire was weakening, and Puerto Rico, along with Cuba, sought independence. At the end of the 19th century, the United States began to see its own imperial aspirations in the Caribbean and Latin America. The US saw Puerto Rico and Cuba as strategically important locations to secure shipping routes and exert influence over the region. The Spanish-American War, which broke out in 1898, was a turning point. After a short conflict, Spain was defeated, and under the Treaty of Paris, the US acquired Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. For Puerto Ricans, this marked the beginning of a new colonial chapter. Puerto Rico became an unincorporated territory, a legal term that meant it was controlled by the US but not fully integrated. This status was ambiguous and left Puerto Ricans in a political limbo. They were considered American nationals, but not citizens. In 1917, under the Jones Act, Puerto Ricans were granted US citizenship. Some saw this as a path to greater rights and privileges, while others argued it was a tactic to draft Puerto Rican men into military service during World War I. US citizenship did not grant Puerto Ricans full rights, however. They couldn't vote in presidential elections, and they lacked full congressional representation. The island's political future remained unresolved. Economically, the US transformed Puerto Rico into a plantation economy, with sugar as the dominant industry. US corporations bought large swaths of land, and Puerto Rican farmers found themselves working for lower wages on lands they had once owned. This shift led to economic dependency, poverty, and widespread dissatisfaction. The Great Depression of the 1930s further exacerbated these issues, and in 1937, tensions erupted in the Ponce Massacre, where a peaceful nationalist march was met with police gunfire, killing 19 people and injuring hundreds. This event highlighted the growing frustration with US rule. The mid-20th century saw significant changes, with Operation Bootstrap, a US-led economic program aimed at industrializing Puerto Rico. While it led to modernization and improved infrastructure, it also created issues such as labor exploitation and environmental degradation. Migration to the mainland surged, especially to New York City, creating a large Puerto Rican diaspora. Despite economic gains, the island's political status remained contentious. Many Puerto Ricans sought either statehood, independence, or an enhanced Commonwealth status. In the decades that followed, Puerto Rico's relationship with the US remained fraught with tension. The US government maintained significant control over the island's economy and political decisions, and Puerto Rico's ambiguous status left it vulnerable to exploitation. In recent years, the island's debt crisis and devastating hurricanes have brought renewed attention to the challenges Puerto Ricans face. The US government's response to Hurricane Maria in 2017 was widely criticized, with many accusing the government of neglect and indifference. Today, the debate over Puerto Rico's status continues. Some advocate for statehood, believing it would grant Puerto Ricans full citizenship rights and economic stability. Others argue for independence, citing a long history of colonial exploitation and the desire for self-determination. The status quo, however, persists, leaving Puerto Rico in a state of political ambiguity and economic dependency. The story of Puerto Rico's relationship with the United States is complex, filled with struggles for autonomy, identity, and rights. It reflects broader issues of colonialism, power, and resilience. While the island remains a US territory, the question of its future remains unresolved, and Puerto Ricans continue to advocate for a political status that reflects their aspirations and identity. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos.